Well, the Mexican president, meanwhile, says he's spoken to President Donald Trump by telephone today. Their conversation comes in the context of a brewing row over the construction of a border wall and just who is going to pay for it. Well, only yesterday, President Peña Nieto cancelled his face-to-face talks with Donald Trump, which were supposed to be held in Washington next week. Well, for more on that, we can speak now to Maurizio Zanardi, who is a professor of international economics at Lancaster University in the United Kingdom. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Now, it's only been a week, and already we've heard a pretty unprecedented war of words between Washington and Mexico City. How much economic damage do you think this is likely to have done Mexico so far?
Well, so far, possibly not a lot, except in terms of the uncertainty that all these statements and counter-statements are giving to businessmen and to the economic environment. However, potentially the economic cost on both sides of the border or the wall, let's say, could be quite substantial.
Do you think Mexico holds any trump cards, if you'll excuse the pun, when it comes to doing something to retaliate against the United States?
Well, Mexico can do a lot of things as well. It also depends in which way the actions of President Donald Trump will actually materialize. But for sure, if the United States were to impose a 20% import tariff, which will be not legal under the current trade commitments, well, Mexico could do the same. And this could escalate all the way to a full-blown trade war, which will not be in anyone's interest. Mexico could follow a more legalistic approach and complaining at the WTO about what will be an unfair treatment. But again, it really depends how the United States will carry out this threat. But for sure, Mexico can do something, and my sense is that it will also receive quite some support from other countries that stand to bear the brunt of President Trump following up from the actions against Mexico.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually precisely on that point. You know, can you envision Mexico gathering the support of neighboring countries, well, countries at least south of Mexico, namely Latin American countries, and perhaps collectively exerting some form of pressure on the United States?
Yes, most definitely, because President Trump, during his campaign, has said various times that he wants to renegotiate NAFTA. Well, NAFTA is not only an agreement between the United States and Mexico, but there is also Canada involved. Already, President Trump has withdrawn the United States from the TPP agreement with Asian countries. It's not clear what is going to happen on this side of the ocean. Just today, we heard very much of a special relationship between the United Kingdom and the United States, but there is clearly Europe in the picture, Europe, UK, Europe, United States. And so all of these can give rise to quite a strange chain of events that is also actually fairly difficult to predict at this point.
And just lastly, Professor, the Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim has been speaking this evening. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to what he said, but he said that he was willing to help act as a sort of interface between the Mexican and the US governments. And he's also spoken about how this spat with Washington has actually united the Mexicans more than ever before. Let me just ask you for your thoughts briefly. Do you think he's being realistic there? Do you think he could bridge the two sides? And do you think he's right about the Mexicans being fully behind their president?
Yes, on both counts. Clearly, when there is an enemy, a common enemy that leads people, citizens of a country to unite, and that's what we observe, and we have evidence of that in the academic literature. Whether a businessman can help, well, we have to remember that President Trump is, first of all, a businessman, and possibly he will be able to better interact with someone that has the same type of background, that can speak the same type of language, and that has a framework of mind that is closer to what President Trump has done until recently. Whether that will change the outcome is not clear, but it may not actually be a bad idea to involve a third party which is not involved in this political establishment that the Trump campaign has completely attacked over the months that we just finished.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for sharing that with us. Professor Maurizio Zanardi at the University of Lancaster in the United Kingdom. Thank you very much indeed.